Hello, America, and happy St. Patrick's Day. JOC here with your Ranting Politics headline updates, where we are diving into today's most explosive political stories that you need to know about. Coming up on today's show, the White House faces off with a federal judge over controversial deportation flights to El Salvador, while President Trump and Putin engage in high-stakes negotiations over Ukraine's future. We'll break down Trump's dramatic move to void Biden's AutoPen pardons, and what it means for those who thought they were in the clear. Plus, massive changes are happening at Voice of America as the entire staff gets placed on administrative leave, sending shockwaves through international broadcasting. And in an unexpected twist, UFC star Conor McGregor makes waves at the White House with some controversial statements about his homeland on St. Patrick's Day. Stick around for all this and more in your daily dose of unfiltered news and common sense commentary. This is Ranting Politics Headline Updates. In a bold move that's causing quite a stir, the Trump administration invoked a 226-year-old law to expedite deportations of suspected gang members, leading to an intense showdown between the White House and federal courts. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798, previously used only during wartime, became the administration's tool of choice for removing what they claim are dangerous criminals from U.S. soil. The operation resulted in 261 deportations to El Salvador, with 137 individuals removed under the historic act. But here's where things get interesting. When U.S. District Judge James Boasberg attempted to halt these deportations, the planes had already taken off. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele's response? A cheeky, oopsie too late posted on social media, along with footage showing the deportees being processed by heavily armed Salvadoran authorities. The White House isn't backing down either. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the action, stating that federal courts generally lack jurisdiction over the president's foreign affairs powers and his authority under the Alien Enemies Act. According to administration officials, the deportees face serious criminal allegations, including kidnapping, multiple murders, rape, child abuse, and assault on police officers. Vice President J.D. Vance weighed in on the controversy, framing it as a clear-cut choice between public safety and political opposition. There were violent criminals and rapists in our country. Democrats fought to keep them here. President Trump deported them, Vance stated, drawing sharp battle lines in this latest immigration policy clash. The administration maintains they didn't refuse to comply with any court order, arguing instead that the judge's ruling came after the fact and had no legal foundation. This marks only the fourth time in U.S. history that the Alien Enemies Act has been successfully invoked, following its use during the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. Breaking news from the Ukrainian front, where dramatic developments are unfolding in Trump's latest diplomatic push to end the three-year conflict. Fresh reports from NBC News paint a stark picture of the situation in Russia's southwestern Kursk region, with evidence of intense fighting just miles from the Ukrainian border. Military convoys were spotted transporting casualties away from the front lines, while abandoned American Bradley fighting vehicles serve as silent witnesses to Ukrainian retreat. President Trump has announced plans for crucial talks with Vladimir Putin, focusing on what he calls dividing up certain assets between Russia and Ukraine. These assets reportedly include disputed territories and power plants, marking a potentially controversial approach to peace negotiations. The timing is particularly significant, as it follows recent U.S.-Ukrainian discussions in Saudi Arabia that produced a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. But here's where things get complicated. The Kremlin isn't exactly jumping at the offer without conditions. Russian officials are demanding what they call ironclad security guarantees to keep Ukraine out of NATO. They're also taking a hard line against any international peacekeeping forces, even as Britain and France have offered to monitor a potential ceasefire. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky isn't mincing words. He's accused Putin of deliberately prolonging the conflict and ignoring U.S.-led diplomatic efforts. The situation in Kursk, where Ukrainian forces have maintained a foothold for 7 months, has become increasingly precarious. Recent Russian advances, bolstered by North Korean support, and the temporary suspension of U.S. military aid to Ukraine have forced Ukrainian troops to retreat from parts of the region. Trump's role as peacemaker has taken an interesting turn. While he's publicly urged the Kremlin to avoid attacking Ukrainian positions in Kursk, Putin has responded by visiting the region in military fatigues, seemingly signaling his intention to press forward with the offensive. European leaders, including EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, have expressed skepticism about Russia's true intentions, suggesting their demands reveal more interest in achieving war goals than securing peace. In a dramatic development that's sending shockwaves through Washington, President Trump has declared all of Biden's last-minute pardons null and void, citing the controversial use of an AutoPen. Trump took to Truth Social early Monday morning, asserting that these pardons, which included members of the January 6th House Select Committee, are now vacant and of no further force or effect. The heart of Trump's argument centers on claims that Biden, at 82, wasn't fully aware of these pardons and didn't personally sign them. He's alleging that these crucial documents weren't properly explained to or approved by his predecessor, suggesting that those involved in the process may have committed a crime. Among those affected by Biden's 11th-hour pardons were all 9 members of the January 6th committee, including Democratic Representative Benny Thompson and former Republican Representative Liz Cheney. The list also extended to some controversial figures like General Mark Milley, who publicly criticized Trump as a wannabe dictator, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, who faced intense scrutiny over his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. This isn't just about the pardons themselves. Missouri's Attorney General Andrew Bailey has raised broader concerns about Biden's use of AutoPen signatures on numerous executive orders. Bailey is now calling for a Department of Justice investigation into whether Biden's cognitive state allowed unelected staff to push through radical policies without his knowledge. These developments raise serious constitutional questions about the validity of presidential pardons and executive orders signed by AutoPen, potentially setting up a legal showdown that could redefine the limits of presidential authority. Trump has warned that those previously pardoned, particularly members of the January 6th committee, could now face investigation at the highest level. In a sweeping move that's effectively silenced America's largest international broadcaster, Voice of America has been brought to a standstill. Over the weekend, more than 1,300 employees received notice that they've been placed on administrative leave, marking the first time in 83 years that VOA's global voice has been muted. This dramatic development follows President Trump's executive order targeting several federal agencies for massive cuts. The order demands these entities reduce their operations to the absolute minimum required by law. For VOA employees, the impact was immediate and shocking. Some were literally turned away from their studios mid-stride, told to go home as their access to VOA headquarters in Washington was revoked. The cuts run deep, affecting everyone from full-time reporters to senior managers, contractors, and even freelancers worldwide. With no payment system in place, the extensive network of international stringers and correspondents has ground to a halt. This leaves a significant void in global broadcasting, particularly in regions where VOA reached 361 million people in 49 different languages. The timing of this shutdown is particularly concerning to many observers. VOA Director Michael Abramowitz noted that the agency's mission is especially critical now, as America's adversaries like Iran, China, and Russia are investing billions in creating false narratives to discredit the United States. The silencing of VOA's $260 million operation potentially creates a vacuum in international broadcasting that these nations could easily fill. Adding another layer to this situation is the recent appointment of Kari Lake as a special advisor to the U.S. Agency of Global Affairs Media. While Lake had previously stated she wouldn't turn VOA into Trump TV, the future of the organization and its mission now hangs in the balance as these sweeping changes take effect. In a striking St. Patrick's Day appearance at the White House, MMA superstar Conor McGregor didn't pull any punches as he stepped up to the podium in the briefing room. The fighter launched into a scathing critique of his homeland's government, accusing Irish leadership of abandoning their own people in favor of overseas interests. McGregor, standing alongside Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, zeroed in on what he called the illegal immigration racket running rampant through Ireland. He painted a stark picture of rural Irish towns being transformed overnight, claiming entire communities have become minorities in their own neighborhoods. His comments sparked immediate backlash from Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin, who fired back that McGregor's remarks completely missed the spirit of St. Patrick's Day and misrepresented the views of the Irish people. This isn't McGregor's first foray into the political arena with the Trump administration. The fighter attended Trump's second inauguration in January, rubbing shoulders with UFC President Dana White and other prominent figures. President Trump has made no secret of his admiration for McGregor, praising everything from his fighting prowess to his tattoos, and even highlighting Ireland's rich history of producing formidable fighters. McGregor's White House visit comes at a time when he's been increasingly vocal about political matters, even hinting at his own political aspirations, including a possible run for the Irish presidency. His appearance today, on one of Ireland's most celebrated holidays, has certainly added fuel to speculation about his future political moves, while deepening the divide between himself and his homeland's current leadership. And that wraps up today's whirlwind tour through the political landscape. We've covered some major developments, from the controversial deportation flights to El Salvador and Trump's invocation of a 225-year-old law, to the high-stakes negotiations between Trump and Putin over Ukraine's future. We dove into the drama surrounding Biden's AutoPen pardons, the massive shakeup at Voice of America, and capped it off with Conor McGregor bringing his signature intensity to the White House briefing room. If you want to stay up to date with all these developing stories and more, follow us on X at RantingRP. You can also catch us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. For in-depth coverage and analysis, head over to rantingpolitics.com, where we're constantly deep diving with the latest breaking news. This is JOC signing off, and thank you, our loyal listeners, for choosing Ranting Politics headline updates. We'll be back soon with the updates you need to navigate these interesting times. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay free.